Okay, for this video, I'm going to make the lid for my dirty rice project. I started off with a form. It was going to be a standing rabbit, a standing bunny, and so this is my form. I got one eye started, and I kind of defined the mouth. I'll show you how I did that. I'm getting ready to do the other eye, and then I'm going to make the opening for the lid. We'll be grabbing it right here behind the bunny's head, and I want to do that before I add the hind legs and front legs. So what I'm going to do right now first is I'll just show you how I did the eye. I use this particular wood knife, and it's a great, it already has the angle that I want, and I'm just defining what is going to be the eye. Okay, and a little bit of water. Also going to use the cup shape end of this tool to help define that. So, and you draw it in, and then you check for the parallax, meaning are the eyes placed the same on each sides. So expect to take some time. Rabbit eyes are really round, and they bulge, definitely bulge outside of the body. So I'm going to have to add clay for that. I just wanted to define that. And you know, you can clean it up a little bit, but I'll go into that more when I actually do the eyes. I'm just defining it right now so you could see. I also, with the nose, just used this same tool and pressed. And I did a little bit of sculpting here for the mouth, and I pretty much have the basic shape. I'm going to be adding clay for arms and adding the hind legs. Now this dirty rice form, since I took the rice out and closed it up in the last video, it has been wrapped up for about 4 or 5 days and has firmed up quite well. But I need to now make an opening. I need to cut it open. If I don't, as the clay shrinks, the air trapped inside is going to begin to cause cracks, and it's going to crack at the weakest link. So just before I'm going to open it up, what I'd like to do is just, if there's any rough edges, I'll use the radius edge on this wire loop tool, and I'm just going to clean these up. Again, you know, I'm going to probably put fur on this, or a texture of fur on the form, but I'm just trying to get some of the major dents and imperfections smoothed out that I didn't get the last time. And essentially, when I stopped working with it in the last video, I didn't touch it again until just doing the eyes and the mouth. So it has, I got pretty close to the finished shape working with the rice inside the pantyhose. So that technique is pretty amazing, and what you can do. Now, there is some techniques we can do. If your form has collapsed on you, we can do the technique that we use, the valve stem technique, and we did that with the press mold teapot project, how to reinflate. So I'm pretty good with this. I like the shape that I got. Now I'm going to define where the lid's going to be, and I want to make sure it's big enough that when it shrinks, I can get my hand in there. You know, this could be a nice cookie jar or something. So I'm going to have the lid right here. It doesn't have to be perfectly, you know, level and round. You could have an undulating opening. I'm going to have mine go pretty much straight across. Okay, and that isn't bad. I think I'm going to continue this and go across this way a little bit and fix that. So there is the line where I'm going to be cutting. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do this. I know which way it goes, but this is going to show me how it's going to perfectly line up. Now, we have trapped air in here. This is it's firm. Not quite leather hard, meaning starting to really dry out. But I'm going to now use my fettling knife, and I'm going to cut this just as you would cutting a pumpkin. cutting the top to a pumpkin. I'm going to maintain the knife at a 45-degree angle. Can you see that? That's important. And I'm not going to saw. I'm not moving the knife back and forth. I'm going to hold the knife steady, and I'm going to rotate the work into the blade, okay? So I'm going to start right here. Get that angle. I'm going to hold that, and again, I put my index finger or middle finger behind the blade, and now I'm just rotating the work, and I'm making that cut, okay? So that's important. Maintain. This is a little bit firm. Whoa, see how it just gave? Okay, so just maintain the cut. Again, do not move the knife up and down into the surface of the form. You'll get a bunch of striations and lines, and your lid won't fit clean. Okay? So there, I made the cut. Now before I remove it, I'm just going to make sure it's smooth. Any little blems. It's totally separated. At this time, you're going to want to get a wire loop tool, and this is the opportunity for us to look inside and see if there's any folds, excess clay that could have air trapped. So we'll take the head off first. Okay. Now you can see right here, this is a dirty rice project. Can you see that little bit of white fuzz? That is a remnant of a piece of rice. So now we have what's called fuzzy rice. And don't worry, if you have it on the inside of your piece, it will burn away in the bisque firing. Now, up here in the head, I got some thickness. You can see where I overlapped. Look inside, you can see where my overlaps are. And I'm going to smooth these out, and especially where I think where it's thick. So be aware of your wall thickness. Use a needle tool if necessary to pierce through to see how thick it is. This is not bad, and that's that 1-inch overlap I talked about. I'm just going to bevel and clean that edge. Okay. And this is, I'm telling you, is a great technique for construction. It just opens the artist up for spontaneity in working with the shape, having that internal resistance from the rice. Okay, as we work this, we don't want to mess with this bevel edge. I can clean the inside, okay, and get it smooth, okay. But just try not to mess with that bevel edge. So I'm going to lay this, I don't want to dent my rabbit head. I'm going to lay this on the side. We'll leave that there. Now I'm going to look inside the body. Okay, again, let me give you a look-see. You can see a few pieces of rice. They're a little bit fuzzy. Now I'm going to get in there. I have a couple of thick areas. I'm going to deal with that now, so it won't crack or blow up in the bisque firing. So again, I'm just beveling off that edge of clay, but you should be really aware of your wall thickness and how to tell how thick is. I can see my wall thickness right here. Another way to do it is to take your needle tool and to stick it in to the material, and once you see it break the surface, stop, put your thumb there, pull out, and that will show you how thick the wall thickness is. So I have a little bit of excess clay at the bottom. I'm going to reach in here and use a wire loop tool and take that excess material out. This is going to be a cookie jar. It's a themed container. That's the essential project, and the technique we're using is dirty rice. And so this is the second video, and this is what you do after your form has hardened. And again, I mentioned just before the end of the last video, it is really important that when you do dirty rice, we spend a lot of time drying the outside form to get it firm enough to remove the rice. But if we were to wrap the piece up the first day, totally in a bag, the moisture on the inside is going to wick its way out through the outside, and your whole piece will collapse. So it's really important for at least the first day to have it sit on a wood board or wood bat, and let the wood absorb some of that excess moisture. And That will also prevent your piece from oversaturating and collapsing on you, and that can happen. So, especially if you didn't do a good job drying in the first place. But it's always good to let it firm up a little bit. So I'm just reaching in here and trying to get the thick stuff. And then now I'm going to use was using the round, now I'm going to use the triangle edge and just level that plane. And again, be aware of your thickness. I'm out of frame here, just trying to get some better leverage, holding it. Okay. And then when you're going to smooth with a sponge, try to get all of the crumbs out. That's important, okay? So now, you don't want to smooth the crumbs you just and pieces you just carved out, and then try to smear them back in to the body of the shape. Okay, that was that thick piece of clay. So now, again, I'm going to get some water, and I'm just going to smooth the inside. And again, my piece is firm enough that handling it is not distorting. But you're going to want to check here, and we'll just take a look-see. Okay. Yeah, and I don't want to oversaturate it either. I just want to get it smooth on the inside. This is going to hold cookies. You don't want a rough surface or a bunch of crevices and areas where even after it's glazed, food might gather. Okay, so take the time to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to put the head back on, and you should know which way it goes, right? Let's see, there's our line, and again, handling it didn't cause any major distortion, so that's fine. So now we're going to make the flange. So let me organize my work surface here for 1 second. I'm going to put the bunny off here in the distance, and we're going to make the clay flange. You can still see the outside of my form is firm, but the inside clay is pliable, and it can easily be gathered into a ball. So it is not, my piece isn't dried out. You shouldn't wait till your piece dries out to start working with it. So what I'm going to do, I have a coil here, a coil of clay, and I am going to make my flange. And the distance around there, I bet you I'm going to need probably 12 inches of material. So let me stretch this a little bit and get close. Again, we use yardsticks in the studio as rolling out slabs. So we got a yardstick cut in half. Okay, and I'm going to start here. I have more than enough material, but let's see here. If we do something like this, you want to start in the center, and we have a stick on each side. We're going to roll from the center this direction, and I'll move the sticks there. So we are the thickness of this yardstick, and that yardstick is approximately 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to move this down. And ideally, the perfect width of a flange would be one of these yardsticks. Okay, the width of this yardstick is approximately 1.5 inches. Okay, so that works out perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut my flange from this material. And this is 18 inches. I think that's going to be enough, but I'm going to cut it a little bit longer. It's always better to have more, okay? Make sure you maintain contact against the ruler. Maintain pressure on the ruler as you're cutting with the fettling knife. Okay. Yes. Here we go. This is our flange. That's about all you need. And that's a decent thickness right there. So our scrap will move out of the way. And we're also going to need a plastic bag. So let me get that. Okay, I ended up getting, instead of ruining a good bag, I got a partial scrap, okay? So now we're going to bring our rabbit back in close. Again, I like to work on the Lazy Susan. It makes it easy to rotate the work. And again, the more access you have to your work, meaning the easier it is for you to rotate it around and to see all edges and surfaces, you're more inclined to fix those areas. If you had to pick it up to move it, you probably wouldn't see it as much and make those adjustments. So now, the next thing we're going to do is add the flange. So this is the technique, same as our press mold teapot. We're going to take this piece of scrap plastic and we're going to put it over the opening and have some of it drape down inside. We're going to take our flange that we're going to add. We're going to set this here. I'll pull some of it back up. So we're going to set this piece of clay on the inside rim, right up against the inside. And we definitely have more than enough material. So what I like to do, and I'm going to try and lean this into you so you can see better, is the plastic is keeping the clay suspended right near the opening. And that's what we have right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my fettling knife and I'm going to cut through both pieces of clay. Okay. And I'm going to remove the top piece and then I'm going to remove the bottom piece here. Now, yeah, and it's going to fit a little loosely. You don't want it super tight, so I'm going to take this out of the form so I can attach it together. Okay. So I'm working right here in the front of the camera. Let me bring this up so you can see what I'm doing. So this is my flange. This is really soft clay, so I'm not going to score in the regards that we normally would with a bunch of water. I am just going to use a little water, and I'm just going to bond this seam edge to that seam edge. And then now I'm going to roll a little tiny piece of clay with the scrap. Okay. Smaller than a pencil, for sure. Maybe a little bit bigger than a piece of spaghetti, and I'm going to flatten it. Now I got this Band-Aid. I'm going to go all the way around that seam. Okay. And then I'm going to blend. So just take your time here, get a good bond. And again, once it starts to firm up, we can come back and really clean it up. So I'm going to do this outside edge, blending both sides. So the edge that is on the table is going to be the edge that hangs down into the bottom of my rabbit cookie jar. So I'm going to fix this seam. And again, I'll have more opportunity to clean this flange up once it is attached. So what I'm going to do now, put it right back the way it goes. Okay, and I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to change the camera angle again. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll bring this in close. If I have to, I'll adjust the camera again. Okay, so here we are. Now I'm going to just ease this flange back in. And again, handling can cause it to stretch. Now, what I'm going to do and how we're going to attach this is we're going to have about 1/4 of an inch. That's the end of class. So I'm going to have about 1/4 of an inch elevated above the edge of the bottom portion of this cookie jar. And I'm going to make a scoring mark in a linear fashion going around. Okay, this is the part that's going to be joined on the inside of the rabbit's head. And you can literally do this with any closed, hollow closed form. You can decide where do you want the lid to be? Again, make a bevel cut. We're going to have a flange to hold it in place, but a bevel cut is going to get the lid to seat really nice. So again, just think of carving a pumpkin. And if you were to hold the knife straight, the lid would fall through. If you hold the knife at a 45 or an angle, then the lid will stay on. And that's the same concept here, okay? So we did this same technique on our press molded teapot project. So there, I've scored all the way around. Okay, now I'm going to score the inside edge. I want to check one last time, and I'm just feeling for volume thickness on my walls. And I am pretty good. I don't think I have any areas I'm concerned about blowing up because of trapped air or clay too thick. So here, I'm going to be scoring right in here the same 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. Okay. And what I like to do when I do a flanged lid like this, if you're making like a teapot lid, you want to keep the plastic there until you make a knob. And you want it firm enough that your lid isn't going to distort in the operation of lifting and putting the lid back in. This is pretty firm, and I have an easy place to grip my rabbit head, so I'm going to just use the plastic while I construct and attach the flange, but I should be able to remove the plastic once I have it completely attached. And you can see some areas of this backside are a little bit firmer than other areas. So just make your way around. There, so I'm going to show you my scoring. Okay, I spend a lot of time to really get a good score job. And I have a water container and I have a brush to apply the water right where I need it. Okay. Sometimes I will apply water, and if I don't see an adequate amount of paste buildup, I will score again over the area, especially if it seems leather hard. Come back and score again, and then more paste is developed in that scored area. And that's the bonding material that really gets a good bond. Okay, so now let's line this back up. We're going to find the back of the rabbit. Here we go. Yeah, there's the mark right there, so I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to, this is kind of flaring outwards. I'm going to taper this in. Put it on. Okay, I'm lined up. Now this technique with the plastic, as I pull down, or I pull on the plastic, it's being driven up and it's driving that flange upwards into the inside of the lid, okay? So this is a nice little easy technique. Yeah, bringing that material up into the rabbit head. Okay, so now I'm gonna go like this, and this will enable me to lift the flange and everything out in one fell swoop. And I can see how I did. All right, I got caught a little bit, but that's all right. So there is my flange, and I'm in about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, remember that the outside edge of my flange, I want it tapered in, okay, like that. Even when this flares out, I'm going to bring it to that edge, but then I'm going to make sure it's tapered in like that. And now I have to deal with blending and smoothing this material into the head of the rabbit. Okay. Yeah. And this clay I use for the flange is kind of soft and could get distorted if I set it down too hard. So you should be aware of that and be careful of that, okay? That even the weight of this could cause this to collapse since this clay is so soft. I'm going to hit it with a blow dryer for just a minute, so bear with me with the noise. blow dryer is really handy in firming clay up. Now this is important. I want to make sure that this rabbit head sits flat and it won't rock or fall over after it's fired. When I take it off, I want to be able to set it on the counter and know it'll sit level. If your flange is undulating and it's got a high point, you would need to want to level that out, okay? That's important. So look there's my flange, and let's see where it fits in the rabbit. There's the 2 marks. It's got a nice angle, okay? I can deal with this edge a little bit. I think I'm going to stop the video here, and I think the next video will be doing the detail. So I'm going to be developing the eye. Okay, I'll add some clay for the eyes, and I also have my ears. I'm not sure if I'm going to have them sticking up. If this was going to be on the kitchen counter, having 2 rabbit ears up is going to create a lot of height, and with cabinets that might not work. Having the ears hang down, I could even use them to hang here, but if my ears go past here, then it's going to be difficult to set this down. So a lot of things to think about. But right now, my next steps before I end this video, I'm going to be making 2 hind legs, 2 front legs, attach the ears, do the eyes, and think about texture. But essentially, for the time spent on these 2 videos, I have come a long way on achieving this shape. So, you know, it's kind of important. Sorry you were out of view there, but again, I don't have much work left to do. You know, ears, hind legs, front legs, do a little bit of detail, and I am done. Oh, I got to put a tail down here for the final detail. That is it for this video, making the lid on our themed container.